What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be speaking about having the synastry aspect of your Mars in an opposition to your partner's Saturn. Having this aspect in a relationship with someone, it can actually be one of the more challenging aspects to share with somebody in a relationship, and that's because of the opposition here between the Mars and the Saturn, bringing this feeling of a tug of war between the two partners, where it can feel like there's this constant feeling of opposition between action and things like control in the relationship, or between things like restriction and passion. And the reason why it can be challenging when going through it with somebody is because it can bring about this feeling of there being a silent battle in the relationship, and even feeling like there's the sense of emotional blocks at times in this relationship. But on the other hand, it's not all bad, and it can also have its good sides as well, in addition to the potential for frustrations. And really, when it comes to this aspect, when it comes to the potential for that complicated energy where things can at times feel like there's this tug of war between the two partners, it is because of the nature of the opposition here. When there is an opposition between two planets are on opposite ends at an 180-degree angle to each other. And because of that, this means that Saturn and Mars in this aspect are on completely opposite ends to each other, and are actually kind of in very opposite energies to each other. So both of the planets are representing completely different and opposing energies. And when this happens, because Mars is the planet of desire and action and passion and how we go after what we want, and on the other hand, Saturn is a planet all about things like discipline, structure, control, responsibility. Having this opposition between these two planets can create a conflict of interest between the two people, because Mars more than likely wants to be able to move quickly, freely, and take action, whereas Saturn, or the Saturn person in this relationship, is more so almost kind of pumping the brakes on that energy of the Mars person here. It's like they want to be able to really take their time as far as thinking things through before taking action. And at the same time, another reason why it can actually feel like they are kind of opposing each other is because they both can not be trying to compromise when it comes to where they're coming from. But when it comes to having this aspect with somebody, especially in the beginning stages, there is a strong initial attraction between the Mars person and the Saturn person. And the Mars person can be very attracted to the Saturn person's stability and sense of responsibility. That can all be very attractive to the Mars person. And especially in the beginning, things may feel like they're not that bad, especially because even the Saturn person can be very drawn to the Mars person's passionate side that they are seeing as the Mars person being very full of life. And in this way, it's like their differences attract each other to each other, and it can create this kind of spark between the two of them. So initial attraction can be pretty great with this aspect between the Mars person and Saturn person. But if there are issues, they likely can come in over time, where the Saturn person can be more critical by nature in this relationship with the Mars person. And the Mars person can kind of be a bit more on the impulsive side, as seen through the eyes of the Saturn person, which can also be something that kind of gets to the Saturn person and kind of annoys the Saturn person at times. And even small things that the Mars person does, the Saturn person may be very critical of, and they may even be criticizing the Mars person for things like the way that they laugh, or their impulsive nature and their acts of impulsivity at times. And the Saturn person may actually regard it as the Mars person being childish or reckless, possibly even coming across a bit condescending, like they know better than the Mars person. And that's where the tension can actually come in and begin, because the Mars person and the Mars energy is pretty independent, it's pretty action oriented, and once they start feeling restricted or judged in this relationship with the Saturn person, that is where the challenges and the more tension in this relationship can really begin to come in. Even though it is possible that the Mars person here can begin to try to win the Saturn person's approval, this isn't something that's going to last for a very long time, because with the Mars energy, it is more so aggressive and it's not going to be quiet for very long, especially when it feels like they're being criticized. Because it's possible that in this relationship with the Saturn person can kind of make the Mars person feel criticized, like they're always in the wrong in the Saturn person's eyes. Even when the Mars person is acting from a place of instinct or they're coming from their heart. That kind of criticism and restraint from the Saturn person can actually push the Mars person to go more so into a rebellious energy, and they can rebel against the Saturn person instead of trying to please the Saturn person. Especially if they start to feel like they are being controlled or they are being restricted by the Saturn person, then the Mars person kind of may go into the space of wanting to be able to kind of flaunt their freedom in front of the Saturn person. And therein, the tension between the Saturn person and the Mars person can actually begin, and it can almost be like a cycle that they go through where it's hard to break out of the cycle, where it's like Mars person rebels and is rebelling against any kind of feelings of being controlled by the Saturn person, and this can annoy the Saturn person, and the Mars person feels even more restricted. And it's even possible that the tension begins to actually escalate quite quickly because of the cycle. It's possible the Mars person gets angry and the Saturn person gets very critical even more, and they can have a lot of arguments, and it can really sit on this feeling of emotional distance between the two of them in this relationship. It's even possible for them, in the worst case scenario, to actually reach a territory of emotional abuse when it gets to these points. And it's even possible that the Saturn person over here kind of tries to undermine the Mars person's confidence, and this makes the Mars person potentially get more aggressive in response to the Saturn person. And it's really just the energy of the opposition. It can create or build frustration in a relationship. Between the Mars person and the Saturn person, they can actually really feel very exhausted or drained in this relationship with each other in the worst case scenario or in the negative. And one or both of them could actually walk from this relationship, or they can stay but may actually build up resentment towards each other because of this opposition in the negative, especially if it's not handled with the care that it needs. Like, even with how hard the opposition may sound at times when it gets to the negative sides of it, it actually can also be an opportunity or a chance for both of the partners to learn from each other with this aspect in their relationship. Like, for instance, the Mars person can actually show the Saturn person and teach the Saturn person things like spontaneity and embracing the moment and even acting on passion, whereas the Saturn person can also teach the Mars person things like discipline, structure, responsibility, and the Mars person can learn from the Saturn person in this way to also think through their decisions as well. And when it comes to having this aspect in a relationship with somebody, it is a very much of a growth opportunity where the Saturn person can learn to loosen up, and the Mars person can also learn to slow down and even consider the consequences to their actions. And in this way, there is a strong potential for being able to have a connection that does turn into long-term commitment, and even where they both have mutual respect for each other. Because with this aspect, the Mars person and Saturn person are both coming from different places. The Mars person may be more so concerned with or interested in being able to have an exciting and free, focused relationship with the Saturn person, whereas the Saturn person here may be more so focused with the relationship bringing security and even caution, making this relationship also be one that requires a lot of patience as key in this relationship to making it work with each other. And they're also going to need to compromise with each other and learn how to compromise with each other quite a lot in this relationship. And that's when this aspect can actually turn from being one that is very frustrating to one that's almost more so kind of transformative in this relationship for the two of them, because there's such a great potential for them to learn from each other and grow with each other. And having this aspect in your synastry with somebody is really not the end of the world, and it doesn't have to mean either of them losing hope in this relationship because of this aspect. Well, that does it for this video on having your Mars in an opposition to your partner's Saturn in synastry. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found it helpful. And if you did, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Well, that is where I love and leave you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.